Hello, I'm Olaf. I'm the co-organizer of Born to Be Wide. And tonight we've just hosted a night called Play Away, where we got promoters, bookers, and I guess experts from different parts of the country to talk about how they book bands, how they make those decisions, and really what kind of media is available. We've also been talking about how bands can organise and prepare well for their gigs in far-flung places. It's been a really nice panel. We've had pretty diverse bunch of places, quite a diverse geography, from Belfast to Manchester, London, and I think most exotically Stornoway, which is where Charlie came from. What was it? When did you get up this morning? Half
5 this morning. So to get the ferry, which left at 7, takes me to Ullapool and then an hour to Inverness, and a little bit of relaxation in Inverness and 3 hours to get in.
When you say a little bit of relaxation, did Neil over there give you a nice sort of massage and stuff?
He did.
Just
Yeah, we had a nice lunch
and what's your night been like? I mean, what were you expecting it to be like this?
It's been really good actually. It's been so interesting, like hearing everybody else in the panel talk. You know, it's made me think about my setup, my situation at Stornoway, and you know, just the way everybody's working their nights or their events that they're doing at the moment. And you know, it's really good to hear so many interesting ideas, but more importantly, it was really good to hear, you know, just honest, genuine labour of love of what everybody's doing, and more importantly, I've been about the music and acts that we're working on. Somebody said something really interesting tonight about, you know, just being approached by people that you really want to work with, rather than a band coming up, swaggering up to you and throwing down a CD and saying this is a shit, check this out, you won't believe it, because that's when you know something's gonna suck.
So say you're doing a kind of slip disco night or noise of fart night, you pick up on a band from Edinburgh and you think they're ace and no one in London's heard of them yet. What could they expect from you?
Well, I mean, at the moment, Slip Disco happens at the Big Chill House, so any band that's coming down from Edinburgh will get some nice food, they'll get drinks for the night, and they will get a division of the budget, and how big that division is depends how many people we have playing. But one thing is happening across the board, in London anyway, is that all the budgets are going down and down and down. So at the moment, the amount of money I get from all the venues is tiny compared to what I was getting just a year ago.
What would be the worst they could get paid?
The worst that anybody get paid is if they want to come and play and there isn't any budget for them to play, and people will do that, obviously. Personally, when I first started doing this, one of the things which I didn't want to get involved in was a lot of promoters were putting on stuff where people were playing for free, and I can't think of an instance where I've done that apart from one DJ's over on holiday and just wanted to come and play, but quite often you're in a position where all you can afford to pay for is transport, and sometimes we're in a position where you have to go and try and find somebody else to pay for the transport.
I'm Ben Osborne, and I'm at Born to Be Wide. I've been trying to come to Born to Be Wide for ages because Olaf told me about it a while ago, so I'm really pleased to be here. In my day job, I do lots of things involved with music. I'm here really because I'm a resident DJ at a couple of places and invite other people along to play, so Olaf wanted me to talk about that, and I run a thing called Noise of Art that invites other people to come and do music and cross-platform art stuff. And other than that, I think we're just here to get drunk. I'll be playing some tunes later on, and hopefully by the end of the night, Olaf will have his clothes off.
Greg, what sort of deals would you offer a band? I mean, if someone was wanting to come over and play in Belfast, maybe they're putting together a little tour and they've thought, well, you know, we don't want to just play on British mainland, we want to go over to Belfast, maybe go down to Dublin after that.
Well, with Ireland, there's always the additional cost for travel costs. So what I'd always suggest to every band coming over is to check out other venues and try to get as many gigs as they can in Ireland while they're there. Hit them all. I would have contacts in various other bars around Ireland that I would email on to the band, let them sort out their own tour from that end of things, so that they can hit everything. Until recently, we were looking for bands and bringing them over, or if they wanted to come over, are picking the best of Irish bands and paying them a set fee of £200 a night on the Saturday nights. But with the way things are going at the minute and budget restraints, etc., that has all been cut back on the now. So the policy we're operating is there's no room hire. We provide the PA, and it's up to the bands then to promote the show and get the people in, and they take the door. The venue takes no cut of it. So the more effort the band puts in, the more they're going to get out of it.
I mean, do you put visiting bands on with local bands that are going to draw a crowd then?
I would normally recommend to any visiting bands coming over that they do a bit of research. Everybody has their own sound, but you will find that there will be people in Belfast with a similar sound to yourself. There will be people in Dublin with a similar sound to yourself. Get online, research the bands, research the club nights, research the live events in the different places that go on. And you will find that there will be people there that you can work with. And you're able to put it to them, we're coming over, help us with this. We're from Edinburgh, and at the end of the day, every Irish band's going to want to get over here and play. How you doing? Greg McCann here, Entertainments Manager, Resident DJ for Lavery's Limited Belfast. I'd look after all the bookings for all the bands and DJs and the promotion of both events. Tonight, I've enjoyed being over here in Edinburgh, getting the crack and hearing what happens in other parts of the UK, how bands are booked by other promoters and how events are run. I do think it's a good thing that over in Belfast we do no room hire, bands take the door policy.
Is that what you do as well, Louis? I mean, is it you look to try and build these relationships with different artists?
Yeah, the clue's in the name really. There's very little money in the label. It's called Det Records, but we do a free monthly night called Det Records Presents in a cafe in Withington in South Manchester, and there isn't very much money for that, but we have got enough to sort of pay people's expenses. But we figured if we can strengthen the networks between the similar scenes in all different places, because there is at least one. It's probably more like 12 or 20 in different cities. They can sort of leapfrog around because I mean, in a city like Manchester and in London as well, I mean, they're just such an oversaturation of bands already there anyway. A band coming from out of town, it's nice to say, well, we'll pay you, 100 quid or 200 quid or something like that, and we'll do this and that and the other. But if you're going to lose money as a venue and the venue will shut down as well, and it's no good for anyone. So we've been in talks with people in Sheffield and Liverpool and Newcastle, and trying to get sort of these lines of these sort of obvious sort of tour lines, and I'm hoping to sort of meet people in Edinburgh and maybe continue that while I'm here. But we've got a few set up now, and what's happening a lot at the moment is people are doing these sort of small tours of like 3 or 4 cities, and each band on that will be touring together, and the one will headline their own city, and then they'll go around to the next person's city, and then that person will headline. So it's a kind of rotating sort of tour support system, which I think works for the small bands like that. And also you get to meet each other and maybe collaborate a little bit, and then you've got several networks to go with. I'm Louis Barabbas. I am co-founder of Det Records, which is a sort of cooperative label in Manchester, which is particularly interested in live music and in sort of improving the live circuit and the experience of proper gigging musicians. The night went brilliantly. It was everyone was sort of in the same kind of arena, but from very different sort of parts of it. It's interesting that there isn't really any right answer. I think maybe some people have come to this event hoping to kind of be given the magic wand approach. That, I hadn't thought of that. That's how one does it. But of course, really, the only thing you can do is try and think in different ways and think more creatively about how one can make one's band profitable is the wrong word, but at least sustainable, or at least to make progress.
Jeff, how does it work with Unconvention? I mean, you've got bands on there. I mean, do you take bands from out of town if you like them?
Yeah, but I mean, that's slightly different. Unconvention's like it's a annual conference, the one we're doing in Salford, and we managed to generate enough money. Like, we try to pay as many of the bands as we can, and if they come in from overseas, then we will, pay them to do that. But what we think we're offering there is we don't pay huge amounts of money, but we see that they're getting something other than just a gig. And that's the point I was kind of wanting to pick up from what people have been saying is, at the end of the day, when you start out as a band, what's your purpose? If it's to go and do a gig to get 100 quid and there's 5 of you in the band, add it up. That's not the reason you're doing it. I'm not saying the band should be playing for free, the 100 quid will get you to the next gig, but it's not a career path at that point that you've got to worry about. So I think, I was thinking when I think Gregor or someone saying about picking up, find out about the local scene to find out what's happening to tie in with bands with it. Well, we've got a thing that we've done with bands in Manchester, and I give this a go. I mean, seriously, I think this is a pretty decent way of doing it. So we've got a band called the Ironweed Project, Manchester band, and they play a kind of music that doesn't fit in many boxes. It's sort of drum and bass and blues at the same time. So they're kind of struggling to get to find their exact audience.
Sounds like something Ben would book.
Yeah. Well,
I could see him nodding approvingly. Yeah.
But then they came up with this idea, and they call it a gig hijack. So what they're doing is, like you would do if you were trying to get people to write about your music on the internet, what have you, is you go and find the band that sounds like you. And in their instance, the best they could think of was the Alabama 3, because it's that sort of psych gospel. They then found out when the Alabama 3 were touring. Found out when they were playing in Manchester at the Academy, booked the pub next door to it. I designed some flyers that kind of said it was the official after party, but if you read the small print, it didn't say that, but that's not the point. And then what they do is, so they had the Friday night, the Alabama 3, 2,500 people at Academy 1. The good thing about those kind of gigs, and we've done it with the Black Keys and other bands, is they have an 11 o'clock curfew on a Friday night. Everyone, Alabama 3, they're all off the face anyway, and they want to drink at 11. You fly on the way in, fly on the way out, frog march them to the pub where our band, the Ironweed Project, play. The premise we did that on is we went to the pub next door at the Academy and said, "You ever put bands on?" They went, "Never." Said, "Well, if we can guarantee at 11:15 on Friday night we'll have 250 people in here, can we put a band on?" And they went, "Fucking right, you can, yeah." 11:15 that night, there was 250 people in there, and our band played. It's bringing the Mountain to Muhammad, rather than bringing the Mountain to bed. The hardest thing to do as a band, especially outside of your own city, is to book an empty room, turn up in it, and try and get people to come into it. If there's people in the room already, or there's a reason for them to be in that room otherwise, that works. What you've got there is you've got 250 people in a room listening to a band that happen to be in the sort of band that sounds like the band you're putting on as well. So you've not just got a room of 250 people, you've got 250 genuine opportunities to make fans. What actually happened that night was, the girl who organises the official after party found out about this, came down and said, "Well, this kicks the shit out of what I had planned." They put the night on. At about 1:45, the Alabama 3 themselves came down, saw what was happening, jammed with the band, and by this point you had 300 people in a pub opposite the venue where they'd pay £25 to stand 600 feet away from the band, and they're all on stage with them. And the upshot of all that is nobody got paid a penny. I mean, the bar made money. That's what pubs do. The Alabama, the bands did. But off the back of that, it was, and it's, if we get to the reality of what you're doing that for, it is the dull stuff of go and collect email addresses, give out promos, say when you're playing next. That's what you've got to do. But that was worthwhile doing, and it wasn't for 100 quid.
Hi, I'm Jeff Thompson. I run a record label in Manchester called Fat Northern Records, and I also co-founded a music event called Unconvention, which is basically a conference for grassroots artists and independent music companies. And I forgot what the third thing was. That'd be fine. Yeah. So it's been fantastic. Yeah, really interesting. We've been talking about bands playing outside of their own city, which is fascinating, really interesting. Some great ideas. It's a tough thing for any band to do. It is kind of like making that big leap. But there seems to be some really sort of innovative ways of going about it now, and I think hopefully people have learned a lot.
So Charlie, what happens if someone's wanting to lay the groundwork for coming to play at the Jaeger Room? I mean, do they?
It's kind of weird because, in a way, like listening to everybody, it's our full-time job promoting the one show a week that we have for a touring band, and there's like 9,000 people in Stornoway and the surrounding areas, so. To actually find like an indie scene in Stornoway was really hard, so we had to get like a few well-known bands, established bands, or bands that, we would have a high impact. The first band I took over was actually Bronto Skylift, and 20 people asked for their money back. Neil's here, by the way. Neil's here somewhere. And I'm not shitting you. Like, they left and they asked for their money back because they were like, what? And somebody actually asked them to play the Kings of Leon, which was... And they did, Bronto style. But... No, it's kind of weird, but eventually the whole thing kind of snowballed, and those guys are coming back. They fill the venue now and stuff. We feel the pinch and the kind of economic downtime at the moment as well. We are there's shows where we have been losing money. It's not all like Welcome to the Highlands with the Toothless Simpletons and all that kind of thing, but there's shows where we have lost money, but I'm lucky that the owner of the building and stuff like that is just so into music. What we do is we basically have there's 2 papers and we advertise in both. So, we get a quarter-page feature in the local Gazette, which comes out every Thursday before the show on the Friday, and the monthly, which is events, which gets delivered to every house on the island, which is brilliant, and in Harris, the kind of joint island as well. So we do features, and there's actually 4 bars in our group. So we run a bar called the Star Inn as well, where we put singer-songwriters in. So sometimes we'll take singer-songwriters up on a Saturday, and it's the same deal that they get as well. But we do the groundwork for the band. But what I will say is, when you get a press release or a biog or something like that about a band, you can always tell. I have to be so selective, and you can tell what bands work really hard for it, and it's true to what everybody's saying. The band's just got to be dedicated. They've got to be absolutely living and breathing it. So we are elitist about what we take up in some respects.